And welcome back to our hardcore series. Whilst I send this link everywhere, let me just explain a bit very quickly. Yes, it is hardcore. It's 1.9.4. Our goal is to get every advancement, or in as it is in this version, achievement that we possibly can. As we get if I die, we add a mod. If anyone subs, we add a mod. If anyone donates £10, we add a mod. I have to get every achievement that's in the base game and mod it, any added by mods. So keep that in mind. You bastard.
Also, hi, I'm
Yeah.
here too.
Yes. Hello. This is Amanda. Welcome.
And I'm mildly more awake than last time.
Yes. Right. And as a thing, so I'm not sure if I heard last time, but like if we do achieve it, we'll do a season 2. Now I was going to just go up by one Minecraft version. However, realizing advancements come in a much later Minecraft version than what I was expecting. We're going to once if we move on to season 2, we're going to be skipping to 1.12. Then everything after that will be by one version. So yeah, that's it. And as I've almost finished sending the go live thing everywhere, we'll soon be able to properly start. Let's start down. Okay, now let me just turn this on. Music. Aha. Now turn just there we go. Quite slow. And let's get in. We're doing quite well. Hardcore mode. Oh, it's gonna hit. Oh, it's red. Ooh, that's not in newer versions.
Are you ready for a new adventure, Pony?
I didn't change my skin for that. Oh, also, my tiger was just become exposed and it's a bit dusty. Let's push it back like this. Okay, so yeah, chat. With us, we have some gear. We live in a hovel. Is it fucking a bit laggy? But it is. Maybe we should add some things. Add some performance mods. I got this one right there. Also, achievements have to be doable in single player. This one we're ignoring. I hate this achievement system. It's kind of awkward to follow. We have obsidian. We need more diamonds. We'll get back into the mines. Right, and I want to get. Oh no, I want to go spider. Right.
Children will yearn for the mines, Pony.
Oh man, this is well. Yeah. I kind of need that spider.
Pony, you have to mine and craft.
But I guess we'll just leave this to go and the night to happen so while we go and try and get it done. I don't need why put this on me. We'll fight mine down there probably. Right, let's go down. Now I'm gonna hit the point here in our heads again, so let's start mine a little bit more. No, we've got the job to spare. Let's complete this fucking game. Oh, yeah, from what I told you. Good.
It's still weird seeing these old textures.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Like I've forgotten how recent the textures are. That is the whole thing. And we could go to the end, or we could just yeah, let's put your cages at the end. Why 12? But we could also just begin. Yeah. Let's do is we just strip mining. Welcome to chill. As we tend to, maybe it's better to go out where we're at, but
Where's the intrigue? The stakes? The Ender Dragon! How about oh, I can't do a voice. I can't impromptu a voice.
yeah,
I
that's
need
it.
to plan.
You need to learn improv.
I can
That's a weird
sometimes
line.
do Kane. I cannot do improv.
Oh, the way you do improv is by, like Garrick says, lying is a skill like any other. That you
Yes.
practice. Oh, coal. The thing you do, this is yeah, this one. I mean, it's carbon. Technically, this is kind of like diving diamond. If you think about it and squint and rearrange all the molecules into a completely pattern. But other than that, we'll check how many imperfect diamonds you found. And I am just going to carry shit down because I'm hardcore and I'm not. So I'm hardcore, on hardcore. And I'm just not risking that one. Also, we're going to definitely need to yeah. No. Like that. You know what I mean. Pick already. If we have a diamond pick, we can get some. Start getting obsidian. We'll need more diamonds for the enchantment table as well, of course. Then now we can start doing things like planting it up sugarcane on the surface. I did.
Sugarcane? I barely even know her, Kane. Says Kane.
This is certainly a bit
I don't
that
know.
we continue to do. See, I can fucking yeah, fuck it. Lo-fi,
Go back to fucking.
lo-fi ASMR stream, occasionally directed by Loud Kane interludes.
Would you prefer I go back to rules card?
Oh, I'm really pissed about that music.
Of course, it's my musical theme, the best one.
No, first is with the legend. Okay, sure, why not?
I don't know, I'm also just excited for the new Digital Circus TV.
That is true. There's a new user section at 11 tonight. I say what was saying. Alright, I mean, like I say, yes, I'll tell you when the podcast that right now. It is live. There are people who could actually hit this like at the right time.
Go, Bonnie, do a prop.
We
These
dig,
guns I just found.
dig, and we dig, and it's just kind of chill, weirdly chill. Way down in these mines. Weird to call it, no, it's just a hole. I guess it's all a mine. Is all fat. We found something. It's fucking dark and I'm awesome. There's no roving. High up there, but it's there to us. Let's give my hot bucket a shut up. My hot bar. I'm not sure why it wasn't. Probably have like some blocks on a hot bar. Okay, so I'm definitely not there. Oops.
No. That was risky.
That's skills. No skills, it's fine. Move it up into here. Yes. I don't know what we're going to do with redstone, but we'll have some there, okay, if we need it. Yeah, shopping with few diamonds so far. But what level is this? 11. It's a good diamond. Yeah, this is fine. Good diamond level, wow. Was annoying in this version. Oh.
Minecraft is annoying for like the longest fucking time.
Even if what sucks is that even if we do make it to season 2, we're still gonna have annoying water, even skipping 3 versions. Just skip the first 3 versions. Ooh, lots. Okay. We need lapis for enchanting this. I don't know what version that was.
Good question.
Oh. Hello, Mr. Zombie Villager. It'd be useful to cure you. But no. It'd be so annoying to get you up in there. Good. This is good.
Is it?
Yeah, he's string. Fuck.
Oh no. Oh no. Uh-oh. That was close.
All good. All according to Kaikaku. Oh, Kaikaku means. I'd like a button that comes up that says Kaikaku means. Not my fucking string thing. That'd be a fun thing.
All according to Keikaku. Keikaku means plan, by the way. If the meme is to be believed, I don't actually know any Japanese.
Presume it was. Well, it's like fucking the training science system using Nakama, the friend. It's there for just trying to get a friend. Because no, it's kind of different. It's like family friend-ish. So some fan translations you used to translate shit in Fairy Tail, I'm pretty sure. No, generally just friend. And the reason the goblin shit just was friend. Okay. Well, we found a little cave. We haven't got all that super expansive caves yet, which are the fucking most dangerous thing in this game. So yeah, we're gonna keep digging and digging and trying to get diamonds. I really like this full set of diamonds as I haven't quite got a full set of iron. Well, I could make some, I'm gonna make some boots. The one thing I'm missing. And I've sat on my leg a weird way, and I've got pins and needles on my foot, and it's not a good thing to do. Hot tip, do not get pins and needles everywhere because you sat weirdly on each leg. It is annoying. Ooh. They fucking try to get around you, fucker. I don't do that anymore. You bastards. I'm sure as well, because shield seems like damage take a lot out. I don't get high jump by a lot of things. I'm saved by having a shield. Oh boy, what a cold it's in the city for some reason, just slightly. This is Y level 19. I've got a bit too high now. It's been quite 16 is what died. I'm below the damage spawn, so I can probably look down. And not go further up this okay. Yeah, I can't be asked to do with that. But down we go. Oh well, the diamond could be. I was kind of okay, I'm tempted to fucking if I turn on my I'm going to turn on my Final Fantasy 14 hotkeys on my mouse so I can actually just get up to specific numbers. Oh. Cool. Right. Okay, cool. Now I can hotkey to just grab shit. I can reach all those on the other hand, and then my rest I can just do this way. Yeah, I know what to say. My number's in wood position. I'm gonna try and learn to do that. So instead of scrambling, I can just go that way. Sort of. Kind of. Oh, well, come back to me. It's fine. I don't think. Shall we go back to the strip mine? Let's get 4 more ship gypsum. Heading up there. Yeah, let's keep going. And just hope that things could be better. Give me a die. Oh, let's go straight this way. Let's see. Oh, so we just keep going this way. Oh, yeah. Oh, we'll get that first, I suppose. So yeah, how's everyone today? There's no one in chat, is that one for us? Probably not. So yeah, we'll just chill. Minecraft will totally not die. And shout out to you, person who subscribed, who I won't name because I can't remember the name off my head, to the VOD channel. This one goes out to you if you watch another one of these. But not your name because I have forgotten it already. I will. I'm trying to on my second one's a phone. I guess we're iron down there as well. Let me just. That is the wrong app. This is really annoying. But I have committed to this now. Okay. So congratulations, VOD Watcher. M plays games. Congratulations, you have a shout out. Actually, bring someone to subscribe to the VOD channel. I don't know if I'd subscribe to my main channel, but well, not my on the VOD, so congratulations. You're like the 8th subscriber, I think. Huh. Well. Well, now I wait. Because this slot is not
Is that where I feel I'd be able to help if I have my computer here? Well, there's that achievement that requires another player.
It's just like, okay.
But also, like, I could do the mining while you do more, you know, visually interesting.
That's great, but you'd also die immediately.
You have 0 faith! How could you? I mean, I might die, but I mean, I might not.
I see. Yeah, I see. It's saying you definitely.
Oh my god.
We've done this before, man. We did this before, man. That I had to keep respawning during the thing for the chance to do it. I mean, it's kind of waste chance. But except for like if I loaded you and you literally just took the achievement. Fetch more diamond, we will find nose. I mean, people are strong. You get a string. We need at least one more to get. I think it's two strings to make up. Fishing one.
It's. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's only 2 for a fishing rod. We have no mercy block yet, I think. We dig, and you know, that's a good sign to go up this service. Oh, we're doing down level as well, excellent, huh? To the surface and go. Da, 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 and all the way up. How much hunger we're going to using to keep jumping at this? How much food do we have on us? Okay, we've got a fair bit of food. Food's not too much of a concern. We would just see if even if we can, we'll immediately. Because we're going to want to get only spiders, and spiders don't just want. Cool. Just night. Okay, so it's not at night. Oh, not at night. I'm gonna just let's just get this all fucking organized as much as possible. Yeah, we haven't got that much storage space, we've got to be careful. Let's go outside. Not a lot, it's definitely at night at some point. Oh yeah, probably, I can't drop some more down. I went to figure out a house at some point. I did figure like I'd probably build it on top of this. A little hill, put a small thing here, it's a bit basin, so try and build a thing that covers this. Probably. Well, it was started in the fucking in an island over there in the ocean. Very glad it wasn't that far off. Let's go into the house a second. I think it's positive when I look at the achievements, but let's get this instead. Sure. Food, bread, can't do yet, and that. We can do. Oh, we need that. Ah.
I forgot how jank Minecraft used to be. I mean, it's still jank, it's just a different kind of jank.
I just need to get a bucket of milk. What I can.
No.
We're actually hunting for like saddles as well. An achievement to get a saddle, but you need to. But there's no recipe yet. So we're gonna have to find one.
I mean, you could have gotten some milk pretty close by if you hadn't killed the cows.
I mean, I had to go achieve it. And food.
All you have to do is
Alright,
kill one of them.
how long's that egg actually? We do need eggs for. We've got some eggs. But yeah. We want food. It's some cover here, it's fine. Maybe should stop bringing animals to water at some point. But yeah, we know that there are cows over here. There you see. Yeah, it's enchanting. Well, my minecart at least 1 kilometer from where you started. Well, I guess start fucking smoking up and trying it out. Fish.
Maybe find a
Breed 2 cows of wheat. I haven't got wheat yet, so we can't do that yet.
mine shaft to get rails there.
And that works, but I'll definitely also build it. Actually, I want to get away from where we started as well. So that's 1,000 blocks. Okay, so building a 1,000 block railway, I guess. I guess you could put it down in the thing. It'll give us reason to keep expanding a single mine shaft that long, I suppose. Sometimes get some done, yeah. So I shouldn't have episode first day for 1.13 or higher. Older versions. So wait, can we boat like Enderman in this version?
Oh, that's a good question. I have no idea.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it's an important question. Oh, right. Yeah, it's fine. Okay, so I'll do some gold. That's fine. Gold. Well, that sure is something. Right. We've got, you know, a bow so we can film some stuff to eat and not chapel. I'm not sure. I don't think that I've been saying enchanted golden apple, which I don't think is craftable in this version, so we do have to find one.
Damn.
That could be annoying. A fortress is probably our best bet, but that diamonds. More diamonds. Oh, for terrible present. I don't know what you do for that one. And that's near the end, and then hold the end dragon. And oh, that's probably called the wither. Gonna have to kill the wither.
Is the wither in this version?
I think this was the version that had it. Maybe. Right, get this. One more. Each bone. The only bone we have to put the bones. Very good. It's so we can start getting some more stuff done.
The old wheat textures look really weird.
Yeah, it's not great. Now we get some bread. Oh god, what is the cake recipe? That is, I've heard it needs more wheat or it's missing, so. That's good. Google is not banned. Oh fuck, it needs 3 buckets of milk. That's a lot of fucking milk. Oh yeah, but it uses like an entire. So, I love it doesn't this version. But it did use to like also just consume the buckets.
Oh god.
So it's like an entire iron block per cake.
Brutal.
Which is fucking hilarious to think about.
Yeah.
I think we're eating a whole fucking. Getting dark. More sleep alright, but yeah. Give it a couple of seconds, and then we'll sleep. Because, yeah. We can put some basic torches on just about the top around here. Yeah, okay, so it's just not going to spawn like directly on. But yeah. Probably. Oh, I haven't missed these seeds now that we've got one more. We can plant. I've probably filled the entire farm. It's okay, couple scaries. Yeah, I don't really want to go out and fight properly. You have full iron armor at least. Waiting for night. Hopefully some spiders will spawn. Maybe I can nick a thing off scatter. And hopefully somehow magically no people spawn. What's that? Oh, this old bed texture.
Yeah. So weird. Looking back at old Minecraft. What's changed and what happened.
That's alright, it probably isn't actually anything around spawn.
I just realized I don't think the chest textures have changed like ever.
No, I think so, Sal. Actually, no, I think I might change it one.
Oh, really?
Okay, what we're gonna do is we'll get the third thing. We're also gonna breed 2 cows, which means we won't actually have to make the cake yet. We'll have to wait for that. No, we haven't built a house yet, and we're going this far down the fucking achievements. But you know, technically, I don't ever have a house. I probably will because you know, if anyone living in a hovel, you're gonna live for so long.
Just
To each other. Hello, cow. Hello, cow. I've announced you cow and cow. There you go. Well, now I get to fly a pig off a cliff, which means going to cats. Thanks, thank you again. We're going okay, we're doing well. Wish I had more bones so I could get a single more. We'll find food for now. Well, we can't start going enough. There's plenty of random animals I can come and murder if I really have to. Let's keep going. That's a lot of fucking space. We need to find out if we can bow Enderman because we're going to need a bunch of Enderpearls. At some point for the thing, we're also going to do a pair for the Nether.
I don't know if this is like before you could put anything in boats other than yourself.
I mean, there's a bunch of pigs over there. I mean, what about the updated boats that don't freak out if you do anything? So, like, maybe it's also funny seeing this. Oh, this is damage the old lightning engine. Sounds pretty odd detectives. Please, Sonic Pig. Mr. Pig, Mr. Pig. Let me in. They're not really in anyway.
Oh, they do have dark opens for you.
Yeah, Dark Oak's been a thing for a while.
No, it still feels
Okay,
relatively new.
that's very good to know. I mean, while I'm here, I may as well fucking. Actually, no, I need to ride up to pick off a cliff. Let's not kill all the pigs that are nearby. I'll handle that as soon as I can.
I forgot just how awful swimming was.
Yep. And it's gonna be awful even in season 2. Yeah, no mod yet. If it fuck it home quick enough, maybe no one will come, maybe no one will add any. Assuming I don't die, if we're quick enough,
Yes.
we can get it in before anyone adds any mods, and we all done nice and quick. Oh, there you go. Okay, so maybe the boats aren't completely fine yet. Unfortunately, I've got to wait for more of that to grow. Dreadful. So, like, not really useful at all. I guess it doesn't matter if I carry my iron on me. If I die, I'm not getting my stuff back. It took lots of diamond. What would be an interesting thing to do? When I finish with Mineshaft, more or less, I could go deeper into this one on the left. So I've got more fucking doors upstairs somewhere. What we can do, once we're done with them, I'll put a door on it so I can fire that. Yeah, we've moved on to the one. That's me onto this one shaft. Okay, so. Yeah, oh, that's not helpful. That's what we want to do. Right, next. So the actual thing we have in torch between okay, so the sword, so you can always reach it easily when you're using your two most important tools. Check. Break it. Okay, of course I did. Well then. Ooh, iron. Then yes, we've established we've got to go. We've got like a very long. Well, I'm assuming it won't count the neck as being like 8 times shorter for that, right?
I doubt it.
Cool. Albeit extremely dangerous. We haven't got to wear gold armor in the nether. So it's just some pigment, not in piglins.
Oh yeah.
We can just fucking chill some shit, accidentally hit one. And get mobbed by like a million. At some point also I'll probably try and find a village just for the sake of hope for getting a I hope that Boomstan's still in churches in this version. Actually I don't know if I'll be able to actually went with him level. So I won't be able to make 5 different potions before I go in. That's a shame. Yeah, needs to put this one. Okay. Dig and dig. Thank you for that. Find the sunlights. Let's keep doing this for long enough. I at least don't pick for like a never obsidian. If I can get an enchanter and manage to get fortune on a pick, that'd be pretty good too. Yeah, Amber was like 1.4. Actually, yeah, Amber should be in this game, in the game so far.
I don't think I've played in a version that didn't have an anvil.
I have. First one I played was like beta 1.5. Equivalent on Xbox 360, I think.
Actually, wait. If you count Pocket Edition, I have played on a version that didn't have an anvil.
Okay, Pocket Edition had like almost nothing.
Yeah, no, he didn't even have a sword. Pocket Edition was kind of shit, but it was the first version of Minecraft I played.
Yeah, guess what they built? Both will pop up.
Who's the fucking genius who did that?
I believe he's called Bill Microsoft.
Bill Microsoft.
Who's definitely responsible for that.
For real, some of the decisions Microsoft makes are just baffling. It's almost like they want to.
They want to sit on as many platforms as possible. Including Matlock.
Yeah, but they did it in the shittiest way possible. More proof that capitalists are bad at capitalism.
Yeah. It's good. Well, that's not the same thing with that because it's just like, yeah, get to as many people as possible and you can sell more shit. along. We got gold, diamond still. Well, like Y12, which I believe Y11. It's like absolute optimum. Should go too low. You're in like lava. It's only like Y16. I believe the Baron, so shit. Let's keep going. Eating the hole. Go. Super chill. So yeah, I really hope you like this chill, quiet, lo-fi mining stream.
The only problem for me is my butt really hurts on this chair. Oh. Just,
So yeah, it is very hot in the UK currently. It's very annoying. Luckily, I've somehow got I managed to get my fan mic in a position that it doesn't pick up. Well, they might just pick up the fan, but if the fan picks up the microphone, we'll never know. Oh, where was it? Jeez. It's been kind of bad.
I'm just gonna drink coffee with that.
Okay. Is it going to be behind the planet? Who knows? There's no bloody diamond. Stone is a myth. Solar big carbon to sell you more carbon. And I guess we could lava cast a we could cast a water one, I suppose, but that still means we are stuck at iron protection, and that doesn't give us an enchanting table. No rune portals on this version, so we're really gonna have to what's that thing? Okay. We got stuff like get the headstone.
Oh, with the big door handle down.
Classic. Okay.
So, David asked if he could have a chocolate bar. I
Yeah.
reflexively said yes, even though I'm like, oh wait, those are yours.
Yeah, that's fun.
I figured you'd be okay with it, but I love
Yeah.
how I just reflexively was like, yeah, go for it, sure.
Yeah, we're all good here. You should get me a drink as well.
Okay.
Remember, I've been touched.
Let me just one.
Please,
You're actually understanding.
okay. I need to kill things before thinking around it. Oh shit. See, I told you it's all carbon, big carbon. What did I tell you? That's one, that's two, three, 4, 5, 6. They go. Oof. Oh, okay, just keep it running itself. stay away. That's okay. Okay, cool. Let's get that. Oh fuck! Not today. Right. Oh, I hate this water.
This one's the last of it.
Okay, cool. I can't take it yet. Need to run. Thank you. Oh, I got one on his head back. Just not quite. Fine, got a full thing. Okay, he's got 7 diamond. Oh, I think 6 diamond. It depends if I have to want the chest or have one up. Oh, no, that's a bit. Don't have my arm like that. I've stretched for so long. Yeah, but it's a bit closer. I could really do with a bow. Ah. Seems to me now I can hit again. My doesn't look that well. Let me see. Okay, so you got some diamonds underneath all this coal. Alright, let me check some shit. What's there? You know what? Yeah, we'll go and drop off a bunch of shit in a chest at home. And then I'll come back. Let's go back this way. I might kill some cows because I need the pigs alive. I have no use for the cat, use for the cows. But I need the pigs alive. I'm going to starve.
How could you?
How could you? Go. To the south, we go marry. When we go kill some cats. We need
Don't
these.
think about it.
It's sad that pigs must remain alive. But now, this one's have cats in a saddle. Golden. Okay, we might be able to kill another skeleton. Some other things. Yeah. No, that should have been grind to death, grind to death. Well, I'll make a diamond pixie, I guess. Well, we'll only use it for like obsidian. Zombies, speed rat in there. Oh! No. Not you. What was that?
It's the creepers taking this version. What the fuck?
More than I was anticipating. Oh, well, that's fun.
Well, not 7, but you know what I mean.
No, there's a monument to our failures. I don't really burn any of the usage in this version. I spied around for the sake of like there's a skelly chilling in the water. He's still taking damage somehow. Oh, you pissed off the squid. I'm assuming there's gonna be no spider there. Annoying that I could do the string. Let's try that. Alright, let's try cake. I have enough wheat to do that now. Milk. No. I don't think it's that much work for 3 eggs.
There's a sugar.
Oh.
Sugar.
Sugar.
I don't know if it's 1 or 2 sugars.
I think it's sugar. That's the one I was missing, I think. Right, 1 sugar, not 2. We'll find out.
Does shift quite not work with this version?
Well, how will I shift click into it? Where's it going to go if I shift click that into there, Amanda?
Or like, or control click or something.
Is it this? Oh, I think it's.
There we go.
What? Just gonna veg it out. Gonna make a new shield. For starters. I'm interesting that one. Okay, shears so we can get more stuff. Shall we let's go finish it up a little bit. I've got enough food or anything now, but I'm gonna get a whole bunch of cows to deal with
Sad doing
we'll get some cows to see if we can find any sign of a village. I don't know if I don't know if you can get something there, that'd be nice. I have a diamond pick, I can go get some obsidian in a bit. I'm making a chance as well, actually. Oh, right, wait. I meant to plant some sugarcane. I should do that when I leave. If I forget to do it. Just rub it all down here. And there's a nice little thing. You make a nice little bay here. I'm focusing heavily on the achievements because there's not that many in this version.
I mean, yeah, you could like just knock this out relatively
And
quick,
get to the version that the advantage in, yeah.
and then do the actual big
Now,
stuff.
if people start adding mods, then I'll probably actually start building a house. Because we're going to get a bit longer than I wanted. Oh,
Yeah.
do.
Wouldn't kill a mama cow with her little baby calf, would you?
We got these ones though. Oh, okay, let me escape. Sorry, Amanda, I have to make sure I have enough food to survive. We can start the death instruction. get back to the sea. These pigs are kind of further away from the other ones as well, so I can probably kill these ones. Oops. Don't worry, it's not just cows. I just can't have to keep the pigs a bit close to the house. I think I do need the mug for achievement.
Ooh, jungle
Oh,
biome.
interesting. That bias.
This was when they were really rare, I think.
I don't know if I can tell on my day. Stop being rabbit. Yes, sir. Finds no village effort. Getting sheep of that would be useful than me. Pigs.
Oh yeah, I think is there a cookie achievement in this?
No, there would be in like one more job. And after to revamp the whole system, but in this, no. Not one that's visible yet. Anyway, there's one at all. Right, I've got this. I can make a bed now. It's like usual thing, just so I can. Secret. Oh, there might be a temple
Oh,
in Shank.
yeah.
It's save us on. If there's anything especially scary about jungle, so we should find to just pop in.
I think there are some dark places under the canopies. That's about it.
There's melons, but I don't need this for an achievement. At least I don't think there is one that is quite limited. I look that many things. That's the guest one, yes.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have to return this.
It's not hard to do. It's not a single player. There's a surfer a bit more. Let me know anyone if you think you see a temple. Oops. I want such good. As the sun beginning to set. I do my cold and I did not, I have more time limited food. Wow, until I go use some coal, cut some trees down, so. Okay, can we sleep already? Okay. Just sleep so I can continue my journey. See if there's a thing. And that's a stop. Stop. We'll go back home probably. After we've checked the jungle, unless we see a village outside of it. Okay, there you go. Cool, and having a thing there isn't important at all. I hiccups. That's why.
Yeah, I get hiccups.
No, actually. Along the jungle, there we go. I do not see a single temple anywhere. Unless I am blind, which is a thing, possibility.
I mean,
That
you have better vision than me.
That's not a bar. So chug it out. Oh, it's not that lot. No, I believe I still know where home is at least. I'm an important thing to know. This is almost close to this, yeah. First thing. I don't know if it's finding a temple in this one. Or village in this direction. No. Yeah, let's try and head back a little bit. Yeah, we're not finding anything of value just here.
More sugar cane.
Where?
There.
Right, let's make sure we get one on. Yeah, that's right there. That's not so helpful. I believe it's in this direction, we'll have to go over land. An easy way onto the fucking onto answer. Hello, pig. Unfortunately, you're all made of food.
Did I scare your hiccups away?
No. No.
Move. But you move.
That was exactly what I expected. In fact, I misheard. That's what I thought you did the first time.
No.
Okay, keep going this way. It'll be here. Right way, but we'll see. That should be after. It's fine, I can just get back into the fucking ocean. We have to. Find it that way. So keep going. Keep going and go. Hit there. Fine. Go this way. Head back through the jungle where we came. Bad. Well, we may have gone the wrong way.
Uh-oh.
But you just find a jungle temple. It could be an art chapel in here. This is very nice because that is a thing. We need to get down with it. But we can't do that now. If I eat it, yeah, if I eat it now, it's not going to be. Taking these. Oh, well, that's a fucking live archer. Well, duh. It's kind
Oh,
of
damn, this is
live.
lagging.
Oh, that's not cool. hear the trap chest. That feature, yeah.
I think so, yes. So, I think it's off to the side now.
Yeah, I can't affect you, so now. Fuck me. Well, I have down a whole something now. I'll take some diamonds.
This is what the old temples were like. Unless they're mainly the same.
It's all like this now.
Mm.
That's not a shot chest, it's fine. God, there's nothing to play in here. Now, as far as I know, that's all chests. If there's any more, then, fuck. Let me get this one now. Largely two. We are. Oh, we should find right at the edge of the jungle. And from there, figure out if we're going right and going that way. Yeah, I forgot jungles are kind of a bit laggy right in this version. No, we're going to forth until we hit the edge of the jungle, and then we can just go around it. At least gonna have plenty of food. Even if we have to like drop a bounties down real quick and start cooking. We shouldn't have too many problems. So we need to land a bit higher. Jungles are bad for eating. I don't believe they're this bad anymore.
Yeah, not to my knowledge.
Yeah, I'm entirely most of them are not. I just played the time to get out of the jungle and figured it out from there. Why does jungle keep fucking going? Give me a piece of it, me. I know I left one alive there, or maybe two. I need someone to, spread the story. What's that? I have no fish. I can do nothing with this. Because yeah, Ocelots already get caps on.
Yeah.
In this area. Okay, oh god, how deep is this jungle? Am I going out? Am I going deeper? I think I'm going deeper in. Could have taken the sea route that I knew. Fuck me. At the edge of the jungle, some more jungle. We are lost in the jungle. The jungle is not really that helpful. Like, getting on like way deep into the jungle rather than out.
It's. Do you not have redstone for a compass or anything?
Right, that just points towards home, doesn't it? Huh? Oh, to sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot that's how it works. I was like, oh no, lodestone, so it's not really helpful, but yeah, no.
Oh, you're going the wrong way.
That sure is helpful, but. Oh, I'm a bit round this way as I thought there was. If I can't adventure the complete opposite way. Woo.
Are you ready for an adventure?
Yeah, welcome to Emma Gets Lost in the Jungle. With that. I'm not really good at navigation in Minecraft, it's just jungle, so very weird terrain. To navigate.
Yeah, you're hiccups are lasting a long time.
Yeah, I don't want to get hiccups because I eat really quick all the time. So yeah, 3 times I do get them. It's they're incredible. That's the first B. Well. Uh-oh. The export core. I think it's just point. Okay. Well, it's like, I feel like this thing probably points like might point to OO rather than. I think it's supposed to point to small, but it points to 00. It's flat forest. Oh fuck. Hello, I'm Amelia Zoe One. Thank you for following. How are you doing today? Because right now we're lost in a jungle. That's how our day's going. What about you? It's hard enough that it feels like a dirty jungle in here. Right, try it. Accomplish to guide us home. Look at all these pretty flowers that I'm not going to touch. And that random floating block. Singular floating block. But okay, so if you hadn't got lost, you wouldn't see this beautiful. Sure. Oh, you're doing good.
Fly me the flowers.
You're doing good.
Sure,
you're
I'm
doing...
glad to bet you.
Yeah, you're doing well, I guess. Good. Yeah, well, we're just very hot, very sweaty. It very much feels like if we're trekking through a jungle IRL. Oh, we've stopped doing that. Oh no, it's just nice flowers. If you don't look out the window, there's a few flowers. That's close enough. Oh, that's a big fucking hill. So yeah, we're just off an adventure trying to get beyond stuff. Needs for their meat as well. Yeah, welcome to. I'm not building proper farms, but proper meat farms because I need yeah, drop from. God, yeah, this is a trying to get all achievements. Just leads to some interesting choices. But yeah, oh yeah. Do you know? I have to explain what we're doing. So yeah, this is hardcore. It's 1.9.4, the first version that added hardcore. Should I die, or if anyone subs or donates £10, then a mod will be added. I have to complete all of these achievements, and any that get added. This button does nothing yet, but any that get added by mods, that hasn't happened yet. I have to get all those to win, and then yeah, end the season. And if I do, there will be a second season that we go on to 1.12 where it has the real advancement system, because I didn't verify that before I started this. How's the streaming going? Yeah, not too bad. You know, this is second stream recently. It took a really, really long break for streaming. Yeah, just coming back. Let's do it for a charity Kingdom Hearts thing. And I was like, you know what, let's get back into streaming properly. So here we are, we've got the new Minecraft, this Minecraft series, second stream of it so far. Yeah, so that's it. Need to build back up a bit, obviously. It's been quite a while without people all the regulars, they've all moved on because, you know, I didn't stream for like a year, 2 years, something like that. Mostly. So, yeah, we're just getting back into the groove. Getting used to doing it again. So, yeah. That's the neat thing. I don't have one yet. It's more of a when I feel like it, because I have some. I got a variety of disabilities. I got some weird exhaustion things, so it's kind of hard. So every time I've tried to establish like a strict schedule, I end up missing it anyway because of random exhaustion periods.
It's called EP bitch disease.
Yeah, so I end up streaming randomly a bit. If you want to like, the best way to know the gaps is to join my Discord. That's the best place to see a notification. I also post it on my socials, obviously, but that's suppressed to help. It's on Twitter and Blue Sky has its forms.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to pop by, you want to see when we're doing stuff. I'm pretty sure my Discord thing mentions a hey, come check out our Minecraft server. I don't have a Minecraft server currently. I may have to make a new one if I'm streaming again. Get a little community server going. I have the idea. I have the thought. I could make a community server going. Passionate about it. I mean, yeah, I'm not like unpassionate. A bit of fun. I'm quite interested. Streaming was quite fun when I did it before. I had some good friends who were also streamers via it. A bit of both. I do hope to be streaming same big as I can be. Oh yeah, I forgot I have a timer. Does that if people are actually talking? This looks familiar. We've escaped jungle hell. Yeah, I get fun. Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? Like when I got big into things, like I did all sorts of things, but you know, sometimes only an hour, 2 hours. But then I got into like horses. I didn't see a village up there. Like, yeah. Then like that's how I got into like Final Fantasy 14 big. So I had a bunch of people who like follow my streams who were like interested in trying to get me to play that. And then, you know, once you start playing that, and you know, once I was getting really into streaming that was really fun to stream. And then I realized, oh, I'm doing like 14-hour streams like daily. That was a thing for a while.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 14.
This is really that's a bit of fun. So yeah, at the moment, my biggest issue is the heat. It's very hot.
Yeah,
so hot. It's very much a difficult. I think it's making it a bit difficult to do things. So it's like very tiring.
Yeah.
But it's going okay for now. I'm streaming for an hour and 20 minutes as well.
Yeah, I'm very.
So yeah, it's very hard. I'm doing okay currently. For this stream at least, so I'll keep streaming for a bit. Unless I die in some dumb way and dramatically rage stream, end stream. So yeah, no, it's stream like that. I'm embarrassed. No, that's unlikely to happen. Not just because I'm thinking. What is it? Oh, that's cool. People say it's also those things where I'm just sort of like always think, oh, I must be terrible at everything I do, and then people come in and say like, oh no, your thing's quite. Oh no, I quite like your thing. It's like, did you like my thing? You like my edge? That's I didn't know to expect. Oh no, it's okay. Okay, spawn. Unfortunately, spawn isn't quite my house because it was spawned on like an ocean. But we can get there. Jesus, that thing is massive. Right. Okay. So that's Jeremy spawned on. Yeah. So welcome to. We can give you the tour now. I'm not actually got a house. I haven't got a house yet. So here's like the island we spawned on. I'm pretty sure. There's nothing on it. We really going like a big circle of that. I'm pretty sure there's the island we spawned on, right?
I think so, yeah. The one you spawned on didn't have any trees.
Yeah, look like this. So if I just go in this direction slightly, or I render distance be enough to. There should be a thing that I think should be there now.
Was it this direction? I thought it was.
No, that's different. That's
yeah.
one.
That's...
I
thought it was left from here.
Right, this way.
I thought it was this way. Yeah.
Oh, it is this way, yeah.
There's the other island.
Here, so there's an island with a single tree on it, and then there's the mainland. Where's your model? Oh, my feature model. I have one. Hold on. Let me do this. The reason it's not on is I upgraded my PC a while ago, and I made a mistake with my CPU. I'm waiting for a new CPU to come so I can actually run my feature model and the game properly. So the game's gonna lag a bit when I do this, but I'll show you. I'll turn it on. Camera should be on. Let me open up my thing. You have a model. Quite a good one, I think.
Yeah.
I quite like it. Let's just get my software open. Normally, obviously, I would have had it open already. It's purely a thing of my computer can't, my CPU can't remember if it's an. I bought an i3. I forgot cores on the thing. I bought an i3, and I can't run my stream and game and my face tracking software. Once that opens up, of course, I do. Which it's so I will. If it wants to load, it's taking its time. Okay.
Want to see a magic trick?
Yeah, there you go. That's my here's my model. It's a bit
First,
tricky
hold on to your
because
soul.
yeah, like I said, me. CPU. I need to replace the CPU. Yeah,
Now,
our model
hold
is
still.
here. And my CPU should be coming within the next few days. So this will be once again on the streams. As we wanted to. It's just a bit this now if I go in game. Ooh, don't think. Now my frame rate has just tanked because of like I said, the thing. So it's not the most pleasant thing to stream or play. So I'll just kill that software now because yeah. I commissioned it. It was decently expensive, honestly. But it was like a really fucking. But I felt the artist like of work I'd seen was like really good, and a friend recommended them to me, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go with this guy. And yeah, I really like my model. I'm really happy how it came out. Check that out a few years ago now. And yeah, I am so happy. Do you know anything about chibi art? It depends exactly what you mean. Conceptually, I know, yeah. I'm aware of what chibi art is, on the level of what chibi art is. I need to actually put a house. Let me get in full chests first so I can just I'm going to make a full chest. Oh god. Look at this. Right, let me just dump a couple of things here and then I need to get working on actual house. This is getting a little bit ridiculous. That in there. This kind of build some I don't know how I want to build my house. Oh, okay. Well, we'll just wait for night. Cute art style. Yeah, I know that. I know about that. I'm not much for an artist. I do have a drawing tablet now, I guess. Oh, some training block. That's it. Yeah, and stuff. Yeah, I mean it's okay. It's an okay art style. I'm not super good at drawing or anything currently myself. I do have an art tablet. I should practice more and learn. But yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The plan for the house. Oh wait, it's not that. Oh no. Wait a second. Okay. Just gonna right. So stop living out this hovel that we built. Right, yeah, I'll cut that straight off. I'm gonna get some different type of wood as well. But I think we'll build on this. That hovel will become our basement. Okay, it does go into the mine shaft. Maybe we should build it a bit more over this here next to the wheat. Turn model. Over here, do as you get. I think we can consider it. Yeah, we can say that. Oh, right. There are people. Oh. Let me just get rid of some trees. I am kind of what's going to get for night to happen so we can skip it and then move on. Then go and get some dark oak. Transition. Okay, sure. Yeah, wait, yeah, once night's happened, we'll go. There's some dark oak over there. We'll go and grab that. And consider just how I want a house to look. So I did not consider a style of building before starting this. It could be anything. I mean, possibly. I'm not sure if I'm going to go for like a different model right now. I'm quite happy with my current one, but it is an idea for the future. Oops. I mean, yeah, I'd be interested to build out of. I mean, obviously, things. Stone brick is just like we're just. I'm gonna start smashing some cobblestone to some stone brick. I've got no idea what I want my house to look like in this. Amanda, have you got any idea for what we should be making of the house?
Good question.
Because yeah, I did not consider building styles. We're starting this and then we just got building a hovel. But open here a bit now. We should probably consider.
I'm just kind of.
Yeah, it's the heat. Yeah. Fair.
Yes, I'm kind of out of it right now.
There we go. Close. We're planning to do with that. Just add you in Discord. Okay, cool. I'll have a look after this stream. Right, onwards to grab some dark oak. Build something that isn't entirely birch because that would look horrific. Birch is not the greatest building material, in my opinion. Of course, the game puts us in the birch forest, or puts us on no forest, I guess. The nearest one being a bit. Let's go. Let's go grab some dark. We can get some regular probably over there as well. Yeah, with your woods. And then we can figure out how we want to build. Dark. Yeah. Oh, I just realized I don't have. Oh, that's fine. I'll make my axe. My stone's always dead. I can't right now. I'm, streaming. Okay, into that. I'm still not sure. You need to. Okay. You'll get a picture of that. This was probably the one tree. I can't actually need that one. We could use this instead. We could use the dark oak as like the frame of the building. If you want to have in corners or whatever done with it. Not the greatest build. I've managed to make some okay things. It took a few days. I built a nice restaurant building once. I was quite proud of. Let's see what we can make of a house. Yeah, let's get invested in this world where we could lose anything, get everything at any moment. Yeah, it's just the realism. So I real life. Get invested in anything, even though you should die at any single moment. What a cheerful topic for their stream. The imposter check. Oh, okay, yeah, thank you. I'll sit up in my chair.
Me too, even though the chair is really killing me. It's hard on my butt. Oh my god.
Sat in like a dining chair.
This is.
Yeah.
I feel too fat for this chair.
Right, I guess a better dog. Let's go grab some regular oak. We've got plenty of birds by us, so this could be fun. We'll see what the building. I have no idea what I'm building still. I'm just building, getting a bunch of different materials with. What wild thing will we build? That is. No, stripped oak is not. Stripped logs is not a thing yet. You can't click shield onto your thing either. Context. Try that, don't work. Actually, if you're playing on 1.9 as well, because no one plays this for people. This is the first combat update when people who play it when you did so are playing like 1.8 for the sake of not dealing with the combat update. And this is the combat update. Playing. It's been quite funny. More. You get to live for now, pig, because I have quite a lot of meat on me. Oh, yeah, I think it is. Fair enough. We'll find out. For a second, that was like a house. That's like, veg? Hello? Veg would be nice. It wasn't apples.
Well, they were probably a lot rarer back in this version.
What, villages?
Yeah.
Whoa. Oh, yeah, it's a glitch too. Okay. Have a good time with what you're doing, and yeah, feel free to drop by on any of our streams anytime.
Okay, see you.
So yeah. Let's go back and start working on the house. So yeah, we've gone pretty solidly just doing the achievement thing. Let's have an actual place to stay beyond this little hole in the ground. Right. Yeah. You know, I actually think I'm doing this. Probably get a chat widget on my stream at some point. After doing this, especially putting whole VODs up on YouTube now. I should probably add a chat widget. So maybe next time I'm streaming, you'll see that and you'll chat and you'll and chat itself, shut up here. How many I said before? I'm putting it on top of that. But I don't know if that's in this place. I'm here. Let me get some more dirt that we have. These are lower dirt. Oh, we have to take this bit less dirt and spray it down. That's fine. That much for me. Yeah, fuck it, I'll just cover up. Yeah, but I don't need to be that big, do I? No. I know what I'm gonna do. Like that. I'm gonna put it up on us. Put it up on. Let's put it up by one. So tip on the stick. So I think that's a different type. I know what makes that work. That bottom one's gonna stay that, but these ones are gonna make it up. Maybe insane. Yes, like bottom one's gonna be
It's like the house is wearing shoes.
Okay, try this. Oops. I'm not getting enough oak. Do I get any oak? Okay, these got oak saplings. So we can get more from here. That's some point anyway. Okay, and then we'll get fucking bitch down here. Let's get some dark oak. Shit. Let me put this. Oh, it's the old. It's just the old plant texture, isn't it? Wait. Here. Get in here. You know what? I don't want to do something a bit weird. Let's smell up some stone. I need to put like a stone brick floor. But I think that'd be nice. A bit weird. I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just sort of experimenting with the house. Yeah. Oh. Well. We live here now. Other things. It's sort of more, but it's in like a swamp. You had that one dark in there, that was kind of the thing I was going for. Like, oh, big floods here. It's not. It's kind of a bit high up for that. It might not work. I might replace the one that's some point. Yeah, no, never some stove. I might replace these stone. I think these kind of look awful as stairs with this tank texture. Yo, the logs look good still. I don't think I've changed the log textures from these. Like I said, do look fine. What are these? Oh, seed. Seeds. Oh, let's get ignite. Right. But I think the heat is finally beginning to get to me.
Yeah.
So we'll find something very chilly. End the stream. Where do we know who's streaming? Do I have anyone online? I really, not really. Okay, I guess we'll find interesting if you know. So yeah, thank you all for coming. It's been fun. Supposed to work on an actual house now. We've made good progress on the achievements. We've got all that. We've got to do pigs fly. Got to go and we may have enough string. We should have enough string for this now too. Just string, we can probably do that, get some fish, get those knocked out. We've got a bunch of diamonds, can't do that one, ignore that one. You know, well, we can start enchanting, getting some stuff. We're making good progress. It shouldn't be too long before we can get some more. But yeah, we'll take the slight break to build the house. It's going quite well. And you know, no more decided yet. I feel quick enough, I might be able to get them before I non-make us do more things. But we'll see how that goes. So yeah, thank you all for coming, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you're on the VOD. I know you're still watching this way. You sick, long VOD watch.
Oh my god.
Please like, subscribe, and that. Thank you, bye.